It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brainer Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege of interviewing the Fairleigh Dickinson's head women's basketball coach, Coach Stephanie Gaitley. How are you doing today?
I'm great, Brandon. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Can you talk about how you knew that you want to get started in coaching in college women's basketball?
Well, it goes way back. I'm one of eight kids. There's six girls and two boys. Actually, the first time in NCAA history, three sisters played in the same game is myself and my two younger sisters, two at Villanova, myself included, and then one at FDU, my little sister. I knew in 10th grade, I had a really good high school coach, and she was our phys ed teacher as well. And I thought that was the route I wanted to go, to be a high school coach and a phys ed teacher. And then as I got to college, my mindset started to change, and I met with Kathy Rush, who is obviously in the Hall of Fame and won, a couple national championships with Immaculata. And I said, if I want to go to college, should I start off being a high school coach or go right into college? And she said, go to college as an assistant. So I went to St. Joe's for 3 years before I got my break at University of Richmond.
What was that experience like for you going to Villanova and playing for Villanova?
I had a great coach. Harry Pareto was a great coach. I made lifetime friends. It's you don't realize how fortunate you are. It's kind of like growing up. I grew up in I'm in Ocean City right now, but I grew up in Ocean City, New Jersey, and you didn't realize how lucky you were until you grow up and you look around. The same thing with Villanova. Like, you were just looking at different schools. You go to Villanova, and now you look around and see, how wow, look at the success of the men's and women's basketball team. Look at the Pope is now our Pope, and just how it's very respected for his academics. So um, I was really thankful to be able to go to Villanova. I had a great experience.
For you, what was that experience like putting on that uniform and representing them?
It was big because we had a really good team. We had a really good coach, but we were really talented. In my senior year, we went to the Final Four, and and ironically, we played at the Palestra, which is the home of Philadelphia basketball. And I actually ended my high school career. There was an all-star game that I had a high school career at the Plestra. It was an All-American game with high school and college All-Americans, and then we played the Final Four at the Plestra. So I was fortunate enough, and then my brother-in-law Bruce Lefkowitz is in Penn's Hall of Fame, and he's from the Plestra as well. But it was an unbelievable experience.
Coming out of college, what was that experience like being a head coach at Richmond?
Well, I was really young when I got started. In fact, one of my lines was, they were saying, well, you're 25. Do you think you're ready? And I'm like, Bobby Knight got his first job at 25, so you don't, you don't know what you're going to do until you give him the chance. And I made a lot of mistakes at a young age, a lot. I mean, I go back now and I tell the young coaches now, like, it's okay. You're going to make mistakes. Like for me, I think I try to do too much and learn that less is more. And you got to remember, I was 25, and some of those kids I was coaching were 21. So like there wasn't a great age gap. Then they could be my sisters. Then could be their mothers, and now I could be their grandmother. So like it's been a big generational turn.
For you, what was that experience like getting started at such a young age of 25?
It was great. My husband laughs with me because I've been married for almost 43 years, and back then we didn't have the computers, and we didn't have phones, and any head coaching job that opened I applied to, and my mother-in-law typed up my letter. I mean, as far away as Alaska. I just was so excited to try to be a head coach. And I remember my college coach that I worked under at St. Joe's, Jim Foster, who is an outstanding coach. He said, your biggest problem is you're too nice, like I like everybody, and I was going to have to make tough decisions. And that was definitely something he was right on the money with, because, I don't like to hurt people's feelings, and you don't like confrontation. And I had to learn to, you are going to hurt people's feelings, and you are going to have confrontational meetings. So I definitely learned through the journey.
What was that experience like going to St. Joe's?
It was great because I was coming back home. I mean, went to Villanova, and there was a great rivalry between St. Joe's and Villanova. I had been an assistant coach there for 3 years, and some of the kids that were there were kids I was recruiting to the University of Richmond. So it was kind of like kind of a coming home opportunity.
For you, what was that experience like going to LIU?
Interesting because LIU, I had done for that year I took off, I had done all the NEC TV games. And I really got to know the conference pretty well. So when the AD called me, I really was thinking maybe I'll stay this avenue. Maybe I'll just do TV. It was kind of nice not to worry about wins or losses. And then the AD at LIU called me, and I really liked him. He was a really good guy, and and my husband and I talked a lot. I mean, I was going to have to commute from Pennsylvania, and the kids were young, and that was going to be hard. But we felt this might make the most sense, so we figured we'd give it a chance, and it was a great opportunity.
For you, what was that transition like, as you said, going from TV to getting back into coaching?
I mean, it was kind of an easy transition because it's kind of like riding a bike. You never kind of lose, what the mechanics are to doing it. And it took some time to kind of rotate that team because there were some kids that, you know, I didn't think were going to last on that team that I had to kind of make sure that I got the chemistry and the culture of what I wanted to build. And I thought we were building something special. And then by the end of it, then, Monmouth had offered me a job and it was an opportunity to go and coach where my son was playing.
Going to Monmouth, what was that experience like coaching where your son's at?
Amazing. It was just nice because our middle son was finishing high school and he wanted to stay in Pennsylvania. My husband and I were co-owners with Competitive Edge, which was in King Oppressive. So he wanted to stay there. And the little one I brought with me, and we kind of had to go back and forth a lot, but it was great seeing the little one. And ironically enough, the youngest one has the same birthday as the oldest one, 11 years apart. So he actually named him. He was born on June 23rd, and I said, I'm being induced. I can pick 22nd, 23rd, or 24th. What do you want? He goes, I want the 23rd, and I want to name him Jordan after Michael Jordan. And because his number's 23, so his name's Jordan Cooper Gately, because my mom liked the name Cooper. So it was a wonderful experience because I actually was able to enjoy the experience of my middle son going, even though I missed time with him in high school, he ended up walking on at Fordham. So I ended up getting him back for 4 more years, which was definitely a blessing.
Of course, what was that transition like going to Fordham and being their next head coach?
I knew it was going to be a challenge because I'd been at St. Joe's and been at the Atlantic 10, and Fordham had had some lean years, and it was 2 years removed from being 0 and 29. So my first practice, it was such a really nice group of kids, but I went to my first workout. Whew, I wanted to find the closest bar. I'm like, this is going to be a total rebuild, because we were limited with the talent we had, but we had super nice kids, like a great group of kids. So we really just had to kind of make sure we picked up a couple really solid transfers, which I got somebody to come with me from Monmouth, and we had somebody come with us from South Carolina. And so we were able to build around that. And the first year we were 12 and 17, and then by year two, we were in the championship game. So it was a quick turnaround, but that had a lot to do with just kids buying into the culture.
While at Fordham, what was that experience like coaching in the championship game?
Wow. Um, Really interesting. I mean, like it was it's high pressure. Like I laughed because I was listening to a Sabrina Ionescu interview with Sue Bird, and she was saying like, even though she comes across the court like very cool and a cool cucumber, she said when they were playing for the championship last year, she goes, I'm throwing up before the game. I have nerves. Now, I didn't throw up before games, but it's just like all stakes, all the stakes are there, and you're just, hoping that you have the opportunity to win it. And we fell short, that year, but the next year we won it. So it definitely springboarded us to the next year.
During your time, what have been some of the things you've learned throughout your three head coaching jobs to take you over to FDU?
One of the biggest things I learned that I think has really helped me grow as a coach is to be a better listener. My dad always taught us that, I learned a lot of lessons from mom and dad, but um, I felt like being a better listener and being more of a player's coach. Like I think I always was a player's coach, but just listening more, spending more time with them, getting to know them more, being more patient, not hanging on so tight. And and I was telling our men's coach because he's very young at FDU, and it's hard because he's young and he's just starting off, and I'm in the fourth quarter, he's in his first quarter of coaching, and I'm like, when you're older, you don't feel the pressure as much. When you're younger, there was times you just like you're anxious. You knew winning season dictated whether you're going to be renewed or not renewed. I never really felt that pressure. I coached for the love of it, but fortunately, we had a good success.
What was that feeling like stepping onto that field court for the first
To which court?
time? FDU.
Very nostalgic because my little sister played there. So it was very nostalgic. And I'd coached in the NEC before. So I'd come there as the LIU coach and as the Monmouth coach when they were in the NEC. So I remember always knowing that there were always battles, always battles. I knew it was a great people place. I knew my sister really enjoyed her experience there. Really liked the administration, really liked the AD and the deputy D who's our sports administrator and all the athletic administration are just really good people that I think really want us to grow as a program. So it was an easy adjustment.
For you, what was that process like building the coaching staff and the players around you at FDU?
That's a great question because when I took the job, there was only 5 kids returning, and the former coach was my assistant for 16 years. She took the Iona job, and then Brad, the AD, called me about the FTU job, and I'd taken the year away and coached high school and wasn't really sure I wanted to go back into coaching, and went up there and visited, and I really liked the people, like really liked the people, and I thought, okay, I'm going to give this a chance. But when there was 6 points and 4 rebounds returning, so it means he got a lot of work to do, right? So, and I didn't have a staff yet. One of my first hires was Jeremy Thompson, who was a junior college coach at Monroe, and I'd known Jeremy for so long, and I really liked his energy, and he just was a good guy. And I called him, and he it so happens that he wasn't crazy about what was happening in Monroe. I said, "Come with me. We're going recruiting. I'm hiring you." And then Jess, Simmons, who I was one of my campers at St. Joe's, and I tried to get her to be a coach with me at Fordham. She was at VCU coming back home to Jersey and was looking for a job, and she's fantastic. She's an unbelievable, both her and Jeremy, unbelievable player development coaches. She's the best, if not the best, of all the forwards that I've had that have been in player development. And my husband laughs. I'm like, including you, honey. But and then the third spot, Madison Stanley's, who I started with because Madison played there, and I love the fact that she loved FDU and was a great representative of it and was a great kid. So I felt we had the nucleus of a great staff. Then we went out and we had to pick up kids in the portal. Now, keep in mind, those kids have been in the portal for 2 months now. So we're getting kids that nobody wanted. And same thing with the high school kids. We're getting high school kids, it's May of their senior year, that nobody wanted. And so think of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer with the mischief, the island of the toys got left behind. That's what we were. We were that island, and we were trying to put all together all these pieces of what we thought would be successful, and we really did a good job. I mean, I give all the credit to our staff, or we were able to, because I'm really big on culture, and I want kids that have great hearts and give back to the community and are good people. And I wanted to make sure that it started that way because you end up having more success that way. And it ended up being a great group. And I remember sitting with Jess during the first year when we were 2-11 out of conference. She goes, "We stink. We're never going to be any good." I said, "Trust me, we're going to be okay." And we ended up doing fine in conference. We came in third, and then everybody came back. And that's when the magic started.
Can you talk about, of course, the culture that you started to build for the program?
It starts about caring for people. And culture. A lot of people have these discussions. What is culture? Now, what does culture actually mean? And the thing that keeps coming back to things I've been reading about is what you are consistent at doing all the time. For me, the off the court culture is honesty. You can't have trust without being honest. So like we just make sure we promote, like, guys, we're going to be honest. We're going to be honest with you about all things, and we expect that in return. So honesty is a big part. Communication is a big part of building culture. Getting to know each other is a big part of building culture. These are huge things. Now on the court, doing your best. Like the two things that are non-negotiable are effort and attitude. You have to bring them every day. That's part of culture. If you can't bring them every day, then you won't last, and I've had very few kids that haven't lasted because they're two things you can control. And I think a big reason for our success and my success as a coach is you get what you demand, and it's all about how you treat others. If you treat people the right way, they'll give you back their heart if you give them yours.
What was that feeling like the first time you got a win as a head coach versus the first time you got a win as a head coach at FDU?
Ah, I think the first win is always the most exciting, it's like that first kiss, it's like, oh my God, like it was like keep in mind, I think we were 0-8 or 0-6 when we got our first win. So we're like, finally we broke through, because that was your first year. You go in thinking you know everything, and then you get to the point you think you know nothing. And then you get that first win. I'm like, okay, how do we repeat that? And then the first win at FDU was just a relief because we were, struggling to win games. So, like just getting that first win took that little bit of pressure off your shoulders and say, okay, we're not going to be winless. All right, take it from here. And we could build. You wanted to have the kids see some success because they could build off that success.
Who are some of the teams that you play against?
At FDU,
Hmm.
well, we have our NEC conference, but our big out of conference games the first year were Iowa, which was great. We opened up against Caitlin Clark at Iowa, and then we played Vanderbilt, who was a very, very good team. We played Rutgers. This year we played UConn, we played Syracuse. And I little did I know that we were going to play UConn on the date that Gino was going to break his record. I was in down the shore in the summer, and one of my friends who played at Rutgers is like, "Oh, Steph, I just got an invitation. You're going to crack up." The day that they expect Gino to break the record, they're playing you. And I'm like, no way. But it was Gino and his staff, Chris. I knew Chris Daly because we played against each other in the Final Four. Couldn't have been more gracious. And I was so happy they won it because just to see those kids go through the injuries and come back, I was really happy for them.
What is that home game atmosphere like when teams come to your home facility?
We're trying to build on that. I think, wow, it was to finish the way we finished and win the conference tournament at home. It was a great environment. Like it was loud, it was obnoxious, it was exhilarating. And so, like, I'm hoping that that success will help build us for the future. But it's like anything, it's like you have to have success to get people to come. But, but you have to, it takes a while to get success. So I'm hoping that, you know, maybe carry through some marketing ideas and continue to build on that because I think kids thrive on having people watch them play and that environment was great. I'd just like to see it every game.
So far at FDU, what have been some of the things you've been able to accomplish so far?
I think we've been able to do I think a lot of things. I mean, when you think about on the court, obviously we're set for history. We had the best record in school's history, and first time ever going to the NCAA tournament. Won the conference tournament, 15-0 at home. I mean, we had a 19 game winning streak. The only, or maybe longer than 19, 21 game win streak. So things that I don't think anybody, it's going to be hard to break that. So that's one, but we were also just named the, good sportsmanship award for women's basketball. Our peer coaches picked our team, which says a lot that not only did we win, but we won the right way. Last year, we were in the top 25 for academics. We had a 3.6 average. This year, we're a 3.56. Like we feel we developed the overall player. We were the number one team in the department with community service hours. We get back, and I think that set the precedent too for our kids to know we need to be someone for others, and that's part of culture as well.
What does that recruitment process look like for those prospective student athletes? And as a coach, what do you look at in them?
For me, I get a feel for kids when I talk to them. So whether it's on the phone, I won't offer a kid unless they visit because I want to see that you're really genuinely interested. So I'll get a feel for you when you visit of how you treat your mom and dad, kind of your body language, um, your smile, like little things make a big difference, whether on the court or off the court. And I want, like if you ask a question, what's your favorite memory? I'm a little concerned if a kid says 1,000 points over their team championship, was the individual seen more important than the team accolade? Um, Obviously you have to be talented and you need certain positions, but I like to take kids that come from winning programs that know how to be a winner and don't settle for being a loser because every drill we do at practice, every workout has a consequence. There's a winner and there's a loser because once you get to the game, we want the practices so hard that the games seem easy.
As a head coach, what is it like seeing those freshmen putting on that uniform for the first time versus seniors putting it on for the first time?
Wow, the freshmen exciting because they're so nervous. Like I fought really hard for I wanted, one of the things I brought up to the WBCA was, you get the two scrimmages in the beginning of the year. You can have two close scrimmages against Division I teams, and you can have an open scrimmage against a D2 or D3. And I always wanted one open so the kids can put on the uniform before it actually counts, before the wins and losses count. So finally that rule has passed, and this year we'll do an open scrimmage against Villanova and a closed scrimmage against Drexel, which I think will be two really talented teams. And there's more excitement to see the freshmen put it on, and then there's more sadness to see the seniors put it on for the last time, especially this year because it was magical and it was such a connected team that loved each other. So like the pressure I felt when we went to the championship game was enormous. Like I don't think I've ever been that nervous because we had gone through the conference undefeated. We had one more game to solidify everything. So then we beat Chicago State to solidify the bid, but because Stonehill was not a definitive D1 member, that's who we were playing in the championship. So way to go from that to now get them up again to win the conference championship so that we're not going to the NCAA as a default because, we won the bid because Stonehill wasn't permitted to go. So um I think taking it off is a lot harder than seeing the freshmen put it on.
As a head coach, what is it like seeing those players going on to the WNBA?
You know, I've only had one player in my career make the WNBA. She played for me at St. Joe's, Megan Campaign. She's actually the only player from New Zealand to make the WNBA. And we do a lot of recruiting from New Zealand. I've had some players, get on rosters, but not end up finishing on the roster. So with Megan's, I still have the watch. Like she gave it, because I went out with her back then. The tryouts were different. Like it wasn't like it is now where you have a camp. It was literally this was Utah Stars, and we went out there, and there was 500 kids there for a tryout, and you just had to prove that you were the better player. And I made a point of staying at the same hotel as the coach, so I could kind of get to know her and put my little words in. I was really pregnant at the time with my second child, so out in Utah. And I remember when Megan got the news she made the team, we were both flipping out, and then she gave me the watch because she wanted to thank me for helping her get there. But it's exhilarating seeing your kids reach their dreams.
What are some of your future plans and goals for the program moving forward?
Every team takes on its own identity. You come back and you obviously want to run it back, but you have to be careful about going back to last year because last year was a different team, different players, different environment, different teams we played against, different, even the teams in conference are going to have different personnel. So we have to basically be like starting all over. So obviously kids are always going to put the goal to win the conference because I think once you get to the NCAA tournament, it's like that's all you want to do then because it's such an incredible, exhilarating feeling. So I think again, the process will be start from the bottom, build it up, and take it from little by little. Assume the new kids, we have a lot of new kids, so assume they know nothing and teach everybody the same thing, probably tweak a little things, do some things different. Next week, doing a coaches retreat. We invited, my friend Denise at Villanova and Amy at Drexel. Jackie's a new coach at Ryder, and Ange, my friend and a head coach at Iona, and my staff, and we're trying to do something where we share new ideas and get new ideas. And then the next day, my staff and I are going to do our retreat to talk about our new ideas and what we want to do. And so you're building every year for something different.
What advice would you give those incoming freshmen entering their first year of college basketball?
Don't be so hard on yourself. Like I think if I had to go back to when I played, like I put a lot of pressure on myself. Not that people put it on me, I put it on myself. Like I just wanted to make my parents proud and my, boyfriend proud and just um I I think you have to control what you can control. Like I knew I couldn't control. I wasn't really fast and I couldn't jump really high, but you couldn't outwork me. Like I'm going to outwork you. And I think that was my strength. So like do what you do and do it well. Like control what you can control. And a lot of kids, especially this day and age, have a lot of issues with mental health and anxiety. And my thing is you guys, we want to make it as easy for you as possible. And we have, the personnel now that have sports psychologists and nutritionists to help with certain areas, but it's a situation now which, you have to just watch these kids and make sure that they don't put so much pressure on themselves. And, my biggest thing is, especially with freshmen, you guys, that's freshmen are going to be so up and down. It's a very much a yo-yo year. The best advice I would say is, enjoy it, but also and embrace it. But Keep in mind, strength and conditioning from a basketball standpoint are probably the two biggest things that they'll find they have to adjust to. But I think being here for summer school helps them kind of weed out the anxiousness and nervousness, and then they really come ready when they come back at the end of August.
What advice would you give those seniors that have aspirations of playing in the WNBA?
In all honesty, at our level in the NEC, I would say realistically, there's very few kids that are not in Power Four teams that are go to the WNBA. So there's a lot of conferences. I mean, the Big East obviously has UConn, but other than UConn, you only see a very few kids make the WNBA. And so I pride myself on any kids that have ever wanted to go overseas. Every kid that's wanted to go overseas, I've placed them, and I help them, and I make sure we get an agent, and we make sure we're comfortable with the agent and the details. And even this year, Tanisha Brown, who was our outstanding, person, our center, T was going to go overseas, and I set up the agent with her, and we met with the agent and talked to the agent a couple times. And midway through the year, I said, T, are you still all set to go overseas, or do you want to come back another year? She had another year, and she goes, I want to go overseas. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna, I just want to make sure where you are, with it. And then it's kind of weird how God works. She didn't get player of the year, and that lit a fire under her butt, a major fire. And she just rolled when that happened. Like she just wanted to prove herself. And what happened is now all of a sudden she was getting these offers of like 170, 200,000 to go play for a fifth year somewhere. And she's now at Providence, and she's sending me pictures now of her in her new uniform. And I'm so incredibly proud of her because I think, to see all her hard work paying off and how excited she is about all that hard work, because she had so many doubts early on. And I've said this more than once. When I took the FDU job and I met T for the first time, I said, God put me here for you. You are the one, I think, because, she wasn't really, hadn't really believed in herself yet, and it was going to take some time to get her to be at her very best.
What advice would you give those players looking to get started into their coaching journey?
We have a couple that are getting in their coaching journey right now. One of my players that I took as a fifth year last year, Nikki Carter from Montclair State, is now on our staff as our Dobo or GA Dobo. And then Abby Conklin, who just graduated, is now, on Angie's staff as a video coordinator. I have three sons that have all gone to coach, and two are coaching in the NBA now. So like, um, you have to understand when you start, you're going to have to put in a lot of hours and a lot of time. Like I've earned the right to come down the shore, and I'm fortunate to have an AD that appreciates that, I get a lot of work. I get more work done out of the office than I do in, just because there's a lot of people in and out. We share the office with the men's staff, and there's a lot of people in and out, and you like to, sit around and talk to a lot of people. So actually, when I'm not there, I get more work done. But um, it's a situation which I think it works. It works.
What advice would you give those future head coaches looking to get started?
For which coaches?
Head coaches looking to get started.
Looking to go as like assistants ready to be head coaches? You know what? Like I think Jessica Simmons, our assistant, is ready, to be a head coach. I knew Ange, who's now at Iona, was ready. Like you can tell when they're ready, and I would just say understand that being in that first spot is different than being in that second spot. Like it's just you have to make decisions quickly. I mean, if you ever watch me coach, like my mom used to always make me smile because she said, "You're so calm," and inside my stomach is dying. But I'm always smiling, and I'm always very composed because I want the team to be composed. And so it's it's not easy, being a head coach, especially nowadays with the new rules coming in. It's just like you have so many different hats. I mean, to be honest, the hat of actually coaching is probably the least you do, 25%. Then it's, being a mental coach, that's another 20%. And, being a mom is another 25%. And so being a marketer is another 25%. So there's a lot of hats you're wearing. So just be prepared to understand you've got to be very versatile.
That's great advice. Where can my listeners find you on social media along with the program at?
I'm sorry, where can you find me?
And the program.
Okay, so the only thing I really do consistently is X or Twitter. That's where I do, like, I get a lot of good things, feedback, because I do try to post. I do a Monday motivation, Wednesday wisdom, two for Tuesday. Two for Tuesday, I started this year. My husband actually suggested it, where I was doing it with the captains, but now I've spread it out to do it with different people in the department, and I'll probably do it with all our players, where I ask two questions and they ask me two questions, where we get to know each other, and let everybody else get to know each other. I'm on Instagram, but I don't do a lot of Instagram. I'm on Facebook, don't do a lot of Facebook. I don't do TikTok unless the kids ask me to do a dance or something. So Twitter would be my number one thing, and on Twitter, I'm at Coach Gaitley.
Thank you again, Coach Gaitley, for your interview, and best luck in your future at FDU as the head women's basketball coach.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that, Brandon?
Thank you again for your interview, and best luck.
You're welcome. Thank you, Brandon, for having me. It was a pleasure. It was great getting to see you.
Thank you. You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Coach Gaitley, for your interview, and best luck in your future.
My pleasure. Thank you, Brandon.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.